Good afternoon. The parole committee on parole is called back to order. It's been a long day. The time is 1:40. Our next case is Mr. Anthony G. Wilson. Mr. Wilson, would you please give us your full name and DOC number?
Anthony Glenn Wilson, 178865.
Mr. Wilson, I'd like to explain our process to you. First, we're going to conduct a parole interview with you. I'm going to read some information into the record, and then we'll give the persons who've indicated they wish to speak to have an opportunity to speak. You have a number of supporters here today. Your attorney, Ms. Caitlin Newswanger, your sister, Sydney Welch, is here, but not to speak. Gwendolyn Jenkins, your mother, is here, but not to speak. Donald White, your nephew, is here, and he will speak. Gorgeous Stovall, your granddaughter, is here, doesn't wish to speak. Antonique Stovall, your daughter, is here, but will not speak. Michael Jenkins, your sister, Michelle Jenkins, your sister, is here, will not speak. Daryl Miles with First 72 Plus will speak. Terry Lowe, your cousin. Natasha Boyd, your daughter. Deborah Wyatt, your children's mother, are here for support but not to speak. And finally, Miss Virginia White with the Innocence Project in New Orleans is here and will speak. At the end of that procedure, you'll have an opportunity to say whatever it is you'd like the board to know. And then we'll let your lawyer close it out for us. Do you understand our process?
Yes, sir.
This is the matter of Anthony Wilson, DOC number 178865, date of birth, August the 2nd of 1958. He is a 7th felony offender. He does not earn good time, and he is sentenced to life as a habitual offender on the charge of simple burglary, having been sentenced on January the 22nd of 2008. Mr. Wilson, is that information basically correct?
Yes, sir.
Your case has been assigned to Mr. Alvin Roche. Would you please answer any questions he would have of you? Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, Mr. Wilson.
Good afternoon.
How you doing?
All right. A little nervous, but I'll be all right.
Just sit back, relax. We're gonna have a conversation, okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Wilson, you're currently 64 years old, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And that's the record says that you're a 7th felony offender, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
In some reports, I even indicate that you might be an 8th felony offender, but that doesn't matter, 7th or 8th, it has no consequence. But some of the information I see in my report that there is possibly an 8th felony conviction. You don't earn any good time, and you're eligible for parole based on Act 122. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
In 2008, you were convicted and billed as an habitual offender for simple burglary. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So tell me what happened. Tell me exactly why you were arrested and convicted.
I left home one night, going over a friend's house. I was intoxicated, and I got kind of lost and ended up on the next block over and broke in a SUV. Got in and put some cologne in my pocket, and that's where they found me asleep the next morning.
So basically, you broke into the car and you were so intoxicated, once you put the bottle of cologne in your back pocket and you fell asleep.
Yes, sir.
Somebody called the police, said there's a suspicious person in the vehicle and broken glass. Police came, woke you up, and Mr. Anderson came along and said that he had locked his vehicle and it was secure. And when the police showed them the bottle of cologne, Mr. Anderson said that cologne belonged to him. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, do you think that's the reason why you're incarcerated right now?
Yes, sir.
I would disagree with you.
What?
I would disagree with you. You could possibly have gotten 4 or 5 years at simple burglary. Pretty much. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
But still, all you had 6 or 7 prior conviction, and the court saw fit, and the DA's office saw fit to bill you as an habitual offender. I would almost believe that the judge, first offender, would have given you probation. Is that, it was a minor misdemeanor. It was a minor. You broke into a car, you stole a bottle of cologne, you fell asleep.
Yes, sir.
If that was your first felony offense, you probably got probation, and 1 or 2 years you would have been off of probation. The real reason you're incarcerated is because you are a career criminal. Would you agree with me?
During the time of my addiction, yes, sir.
Yeah, well, we're gonna talk about your addiction later. But would you agree the reason why you're incarcerated today is because you had a prior criminal background that was almost aligned to you being billed as an habitual offender?
Yes, sir.
I've seen some people get billed habitually on a second offense. The legislation says it should be a third offense. But you had 6 or 7 prior convictions. Now, along with those 7 or 6, we're gonna say it's 6 prior convictions, your first arrest was what, 1977?
Yes, sir.
In California, right?
Yes, sir.
But for car theft. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
And you were given 3 years probation. And then a few months later, in June of 1977, you were arrested on a sex offense. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And your probation was revoked. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
You received 5 years probation in California for your lewd act. And again, you had criminal activity in 1978 in Louisiana, but they did not revoke your supervision. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Then on July 16th, 1986, you were placed on probation again in the state of California, and you were revoked in 1988. Is that not correct?
Yes, sir.
Then in April of 1996, you were released again on supervision. Only 10 months later, you were arrested for simple burglary and you were revoked again. Is that not correct?
Yes, sir.
In August of 1999, you returned to parole supervision and you immediately absconded that supervision and was arrested in 2000 for simple burglary and revoked again. Is that not correct?
Yes, sir.
In 2001, you were released on supervision again. And that was in February of 2001. 9 months later, in November of the same year, you were revoked again. Is that not correct?
Yes, sir.
In 2004, you were released again on supervision, and you immediately didn't even report. You immediately absconded supervision. Is that not correct?
Yes, sir.
In 2004, you were arrested for a parole violation and you were ordered to complete the Blue Walters program. That's not correct.
Yes, sir.
In February 2005, you completed that program
Yes, sir.
and you were released on supervision.
Yes, sir.
And you absconded supervision again.
Yes, sir.
In 2007, you were released again on parole supervision and you immediately absconded. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And then you got arrested on a very minor misdemeanor. And you were arrested in 2007 and you were revoked again.
Yes, sir.
You've been on supervision a total of 10 times and been revoked 9 of those times. And the only one you didn't get revoked, you had criminal activity during that supervision where they opted not to revoke you. So before we go any further, Mr. Wilson, tell me why I should vote to put you on supervision for the rest of your life.
Yes, since I've been here at Angola, I've took life living in balance classes, Alcohol Anonymous, and the job I do working in healthcare. I'm a healthcare coordinator.
Right.
And I've been taking and studying the Narcotic Anonymous program, and one of 3 of our main tenets is unity, service, and recovery. And by my work with the people I work with, the patients, that being of service to them, and it helps me myself to better myself and change and helping them and help them do better.
Understand. So let's go to the positive side. Tell me about the programs you completed. Tell me about, did you complete substance abuse?
I completed 100 hours, substance abuse, living in
Okay,
balance, anger management.
Mr. Wilson, tell me what substance abuse program you completed.
With substance abuse, living in balance.
Living in balance. Have you taken anything else?
Victim awareness.
Have you taken anything else in the line of substance abuse?
Yes, sir. I'm currently enrolled in a class now. I attend once a week. It's like a refresher corporate group setting, and I feel that helps me just being able to be in there to continue taking the message to the guys that study suffering with the addiction.
Which program is that?
Living in balance.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, have you taken any Celebrate Recovery, Louisiana Risk Management, mind-altering substance? Because your main problem was drugs and alcohol, am I correct?
Yes, sir.
That was the reason for all of the break-ins and burglaries, and you wanted to get money to support your drug habit, am I right?
Yes, sir.
So living in balance is good. Living in balance is substance abuse education. I'm talking more in the lines of substance abuse treatment. Have you had any inpatient or outpatient treatment since you've been incarcerated?
Well, that'd be the studying with the Narcotic Anonymous group, sir.
Okay. See,
I
you took
translate-
go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I transferred the studies of that into my work program with healthcare audit program. And then I learned about my triggers and stuff, stay away from different triggers that will cause me to go back to using drugs or alcohol.
But you took Lou Walters way back when, and it didn't do any good. See, that was substance abuse treatment. That was inpatient treatment. And we took, I think maybe in 2010 or thereabout. What I'm saying is, you need more than living in balance. You have a serious substance abuse problem. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
So I need to see some more programming in the area of substance abuse.
Well, I took everything here that Angola has to offer. And I'm also going to be involved with Narcotic Anonymous on the street as parole. I have the Innocent Project with me. I have a support group. And I'll be volunteer with the FIT program on the street, volunteer time with that program.
Well, let's go to the other area. I understand your work assignment is a nursing orderly, but you're more than an orderly. I understand that you coordinate all the care for patients in a certain area at Louisiana State Penitentiary. Tell us about that.
Okay, I got moved back to Camp C, and they started the Outer Camp healthcare program back there. And I started out in healthcare about 13 years ago. My first 9.5 years was up here at the main prison at the hospital on the wards. I started out as a barber, grooming them, shaving them, and I started taking the healthcare courses to do more where I help them more. And so when I moved back there, by the certificates I had of doing that job, Warren Smith made me the healthcare coordinator. So the guys we hired to bring in there to help, I was able to teach them the right way, the proper way to help a guy that can't help himself, and get them ready, take them to chow, get their medicine, shower them, change the bed, everything, just to see them with a little smile on their face. Back there, they didn't have that at the time, and I spent.
Go ahead.
And that's how I spend my day, mostly with them, giving back with them, being a service to them.
So basically, you live with these patients.
Yes, sir.
And most of your time, you're at the beck and call. So you don't really have that much time to take programs or any other community service organization. Am I correct?
Only the other two programs I got back into that I'll be sending in on, I'm taking now.
Okay. Have you completely thinking for a change?
Yes, sir.
Anger management,
Yes, sir.
victim awareness,
Yes, sir.
any parenting classes.
Inside, outside, there.
So you have the basic program.
Yes, sir.
That's good. So tell me about your transition plan. What's your transition plan?
Transition plan. I'm not going back to Monroe. I'm going to New Orleans. I'll be staying with my brother. He's a sponsor for Narcotic Anonymous, and I have Narcotic Anonymous that'll be helping me, Innocent Project. Try to volunteer time with the SIT program during times that I'm not working and get a job.
Now, I'm gonna put this in for the record, but you can't do anything about this. You do have very strong opposition to your early release. That opposition comes from the 4th JDC District Attorney's Office in Monroe, Louisiana. And you have a second opposition from a retired assistant DA by the name of Jerry Jones. And Jerry Jones sends us a comment. And I'm gonna read my comment, and I'm going to ask for your response to his comment, okay? You know who Jerry Jones is?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you do know what he's accusing you of.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So there's no need for me to read that comment. So would you respond to what he's commenting on?
Yes, sir.
You can respond to it. If you know what Mr. Jones' comments on, you can respond to that.
Okay. That's probably about the case I was interviewed on, and it was an old unsolved murder case that they was trying to implicate me in on, and it didn't happen. They just, like I said, I was interviewed, put in the newspaper, just talked about, different things in the newspaper about the case. I never was arrested on it, and I end up being arrested on this charge and given life.
So what's your response to the DNA evidence discovered on a piece of clothing of the victim?
Like I told them back then, I was into drugs, and I was selling drugs, and being involved with different women, and like I told them, it could have came from just being involved with her. And that could have been during one of my times. I was making the transition for drugs or trading for drugs or something during that time.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate the response. Besides being certified in healthcare services and it being a healthcare auditor, any other vocational skills that you have?
Yes, sir. I went to school. I took machinist technology in wood and metal, preferably woodwork. I built furniture for a lot of years. Celix Manufacturer and Pacific Butcher Block.
Mr. Wilson, I've seen extensive rap sheets, but you have an extensive rap sheet. You have, I think, maybe 18 or 20 arrests period from 1977 to 2007, which is a 30-year span. And there are some robbery, auto theft, possession of controlled substance, lewd acts, disturbing the peace, aggravated battery with a weapon, aggravated assault, pleaded down to simple assault, felony theft, burglary. Tell me exactly what was your mindset in those 30 years where you committed so many theft and some violent crimes, because you had some assault arrests? What was your mindset? Was it only because you were strung out on drugs, or were there some other reasons that caused this kind of criminal behavior?
A lot of it was because of addiction, sir. And a lot of the battery charge, those dropped, I pleaded on those to simple battery. There were fights, different neighborhood stuff we did. We was young and stuff. But sorry, all that happened. It took place. It was something that happened in my young years.
So tell me about your rehabilitation. When did the light go off? When did you start to think that basically I need to change the way I handle life and start doing exactly what I need to do when I need to do it?
What really hit me was when was after I came to prison and I got sober and realized that I had lost everything. I hit rock bottom. Family, I didn't have family. I didn't have no one. I was out on my own. I was just, living to get high with no purpose. So when I got here, first, when I got violated, I talked to a parole agent and he talked to me. And he spoke with me real positive. He said I should have, got in contact with him. Somehow he could try to help me. So it really had me to thinking, I'm doing all this and I got to the point I was really tired of it. But during that time, I didn't have nowhere to go, didn't have nowhere to live. Now hanging out in drug areas, people that did drugs and, at their spot, they had drugs and I just got back into the rut, But once I got here to Angola, like I said, I started seeing some of the programs and started hanging with some guys that was in the Lifers Association. I started taking classes with them and learning more and just doing more positive things. Just saw I wanted to be better, get my respect back, get dignity in my life and be able to help others.
Thank you. I appreciate that statement. Now, would you please explain why and you were 62 years old at the time, a 63-year-old offender at Louisiana State Penitentiary and been incarcerated for 13 years, and you have a disciplinary write-up in 2021.
Me and a guy named Sean was in the hobby shop and we was in a conversation and we got turned into an argument and we started arguing about it and Sean came down to where I was and tried to take a swing at me and I had to defend myself. Like I say, I'm old and that's not what I do. I should have just defused the situation, walked away and gave him time to cool off and went outside and talked to someone else. Sorry about that happening. We both apologized and it wasn't nothing serious and we got over it.
It was serious, Mr. Wilson. You're a 62-year-old man at the time. You've been incarcerated for a number of years. You knew the vicinity policies and regulations. You were in a hobby shop. You were in the public area. And you had a confrontation. Then you took a swing at a fellow offender. You went to disciplinary court and you were found guilty.
Yes, sir.
And that's not the first fight that you had at Angola.
No, sir, I had
You had a fight back in '09.
right in the kitchen.
Yeah,
I was cooking in the kitchen.
but I would expect a little bit more from a mature, mature, rehabilitated individual who is confronted by another offender, and he should have just walked away.
Well, when he walked down to my spot, I'm thinking he was coming to talk. I didn't know he was coming to, like say, take a swing at me. So, like I said, when he took the swing at me, I tried to, block and try to defend myself. I didn't go down to where he was. I never did approach him. I was approached.
Okay, but what I'm saying, Mr. Wilson, as a veteran offender, you knew better. You knew it was gonna get you in trouble. Did you not?
Yes, sir.
You've taken anger management. So you knew the devices at your disposal, count to 10, take a deep breath, and walk away. Now, consult with your attorney, and I'm gonna ask you a question. Question is there any more positive information that I did not cover that you would like to mention?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. Since that fight, like I said, I got back into healthcare, and I was promoted, the healthcare coordinator, and I took, like I said, I took the living in balance of the refresher course in living in balance and anger management. I'm currently in that class now. I take it every Wednesday, 2 hours each class, and like I said, I try to stay away from those triggers now that cause me to have, the backlashes against stuff like that, what I was indulged in.
Mr. Wilson, I enjoyed talking to you. Warden Ambrose, Warden Oliver, is there any information that you'd like to add?
I think y'all summed everything up. I will say he is one of the healthcare orderlies in the Bear One dorm, and he does help out with the supplies. There's a few orderlies in there, and they help out with all the offenders.
Thank you, Warden Oliver. Warden Ambrose,
I have nothing to say, sir.
thank you. Mr. Wilson,
Yes, sir.
it's been a pleasure, and I will deliberate and I will come up with my decision at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Mr. Roche. Now we'll hear from your supporters. Mr. Darrell Miles with 72 plus.
I'm sorry, Mr. Marabella?
Yes.
So we actually have a list of those who are speaking on behalf of Mr. Wilson, and we were not aware that we're very grateful that Mr. Miles is here on the Zoom. Thank you, Mr. Miles, but we actually had Mr. Wilson's brother, Roger Wilson, and his cousin.
Well, I have him listed as a speaker. I'm going to go through and see who the speakers are, and you can tell me who they are. Okay.
All right, great.
His brother, Roger Wilson, will be speaking. Is that correct? Roger Wilson will be speaking. Donald White will be speaking. No?
Yes, sir.
Yes or no?
Yes. I'm sorry.
No, I don't.
Okay.
No.
3 speakers. Tell me who they are.
Roger Wilson, who is here,
Okay.
Mr. Kenneth Hampton, and then Dr. Virginia White, who will be on Zoom. I apologize that there was a
That's okay.
This was communicated.
Okay, so we have Roger Wilson, Dr. Kenneth Hampton, Miss Virginia White, and of course you, Miss Weiner, is that correct?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right, so let's hear from Mr. Roger Wilson.
Yeah, you can stay there.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Distinguished members on the board, my name is Roger Wilson, younger brother of Anthony. And I'm here today to speak on his behalf for parole. I go back almost 17 years when he was incarcerated. He started his mission to rehabilitate himself. I know over the years prior to this, he's had his fair share of problems while being on parole in the past. But when you look back, the one constant thing is it's the drug use. But now he has a program of Narcotics Anonymous. And I'm here, Narcotics Anonymous, and here it is in his talk. And I hear it in his talk, I'm sorry. And I see it in his walk when I come to visit him. On many visits and numerous conversations, I've noticed a change in his outlook on life and his commitment to the Narcotics Anonymous program. He's working a 12-step program. He has a sponsor who has working knowledge of the 12 steps and the 12 traditions of Narcotics Anonymous, and over 30 years in recovery. Narcotics Anonymous is a worldwide organization of recovering addicts. We meet regularly to help each other stay clean. Our message is that any addict, can stop using drugs, lose the desire to use, and find a new way to live. Upon my brother's release, he would be living with me and my wife in New Orleans. So today I'm here before this board and say it's time. It's time for my brother to come home, to be that son he is, that father he's been, and that brother he'll always be. But most important, to be that productive member of society. You might ask yourself, how do I know so much about Narcotics Anonymous? Well, I'm a member of 24 years, clean, and I introduced my brother to this program. I also understand that the Innocence Project has an outpatient program that he'll be enrolling in. So with that, I thank you for your time and hope you make the right decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. We appreciate your comments. Now we hear from Dr. Kenneth Hampton.
Good afternoon, board. Thank you for taking the time to spend with us today. My name is Reverend Kenneth Hampton. I am the associate pastor of Congregation of Care at the New Faith Church in Houston, Texas, where I have served in prison ministry for the last 10 years. Before I go into my heartfelt comments, Anthony made a comment earlier that I want to address. He said at the height of his drug problem, he lost everything, including his family and everything that he had. I would like to offer, sir, that he never lost his family. We've always cared for him and will always care for him, no matter what state of life that he is in. So he may think he lost us, but we carried him through prayer at that time. And our prayer was that God would either save him or put him in a place where he could be saved. And he said earlier today, as we talked this morning, that he came to Angola State Prison for a reason. And that reason is because God saved his life. 2 years ago or so, he had a triple bypass surgery here. And in his own admissions, if I would not have been here, my life would have been different because I would have been dead. So we carried him in prayer, and we still carry him in prayer. March 2012 is when I noticed the difference. You may ask, how am I so clear? It's when my maternal grandfather passed away. After not talking with Anthony for 5 years because of the hurt of the crimes that he had been convicted of, he called me and offered his sincere condolences on the passing of my grandfather. And he also apologized. He apologized for the hurt that he gave me, the hurt that was put upon our family, because the Anthony that you see here is the Anthony that we grew up with. Even though there was the bout of trouble with the law, he still had a caring heart. As a matter of fact, he is the one that introduced me to entrepreneurship. By his through our own conversations, he taught me how to save. He taught me how to walk upright with dignity, even though he had the struggles in life that he had. I often told him in our reconnection after March 2012 that I appreciated the time and the care that he took for me when I was a young man. And with my 10 years of prison ministry, I've challenged Anthony over these last 10 years. I've challenged him to be a better person, challenged him to be a better son, father, man of God. And I assure you, board, that I would not have wasted my time driving here from Houston, Texas, if I did not believe in the change in Anthony's life. And my commitment to Anthony is to pool all the resources that I've gained over the last 10 years working in prison ministry to ensure that he is a successful, productive member of society, along with the rest of the family that we have sitting here and those that are on Zoom. I appreciate this opportunity to address you on this afternoon. Thank you for considering my comments.
Thank you very much for your comments. Now we'll hear from Ms. Virginia White.
Yes, I would like to add that during my communication with Mr. Wilson and other client service staff, we've grown to learn Mr. Wilson as a very humble man. Throughout several meetings, we're able to see different sides and experience different input from Mr. Wilson about his sobriety and about where he's at right now. And he identified, I guess, the source of his actions as addiction, and the support services that we will offer and connect Mr. Wilson to if he's released will help with identifying and making sure that we avoid the triggers of those actions and of that source that caused him to make certain decisions. Mr. Wilson has a strong support system based on his needs and where he would be at coming home. So he plans to live with his brother, who also has great support system. He lives with his wife in a community area. He works. Mr. Wilson will also have the opportunity to be connected to CEO Works, which is also in New Orleans, and it's an employment agency. We have a good relationship with them. We have clients that have already went through that program and have city jobs. And speaking with Mr. Wilson, our reentry plan, that is also part of that foundation. So I'm not sure what his past support was, but I know this time Mr. Wilson has definitely communicated a strong sense of dedication, determination, and commitment to his sobriety and future goals. And also he has the support of the Innocence Project New Orleans. And we not only do direct service support, we provide case management. We connect clients with counselors. So we give clients the resources in order to be successful. I'm not sure if he's had that in the past, but I know if he's able to be released, he will have that moving forward. And we will make sure that we stay on top of his parole requirements, that we're in constant communication. We have new staff members as well. So he has a good safety net within the community, with the church, within his home, with his brother, and he leads NA meetings as well. So it's there, and I hope that you will consider everything that's been presented today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Wilson, is there anything you'd like to say before Ms. Newswanger wraps it up for us?
Yes, sir. I want to thank the board for having me here today to give me a chance to get my life back. You know, when I came to Angola, I had a bad addiction. And I want to apologize to the city of Monroe for committing the crimes I did to support that addiction. When I talk to my kids now on the phone, and they say, "Dad, I love you." Or when I talk to my grandkids, I get ready to hang up the phone. I tell them I love them. They say, Papa, I love you more. That's a real good feeling. And that's I want that feeling now. That's my new addiction now, my love for my family. I just ask y'all, please reconsider and have my life back. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Flanagan, would you like to wrap it up for us, please?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Good afternoon. I just want to touch on, Mr. Roche. I know that this is important to you and as well to the entire panel, that Mr. Wilson does have an extensive history. But I want to point out that this is an extensive history over 30 years' time. And as Dr. Virginia White pointed out, we don't necessarily know, what supports Mr. Wilson had at that time. We can't go back in time. But we know that what we can do moving forward, and we know what's in front of us and what's in the present. And that's the letters that we have received from Mr. Wilson's supervisors, who have commented on how he's dependable, how he's changed, how he cares about the other offenders that he helps as a medical orderly. And these are people that are with him every single day. They see him follow rules, they see him help other people. And that's something that is very remarkable. And like I said, we don't know what the support was in his past, but we know what the support will be moving forward. It'll be Innocence Project New Orleans Client Services Program and the many faces you see on Zoom and here in this room. I don't think I need to comment about Mr. Wilson's certificates and accomplishments since we've already been over those, but I do want to highlight how remarkable Mr. Wilson's recovery has been intertwined in his service, and how the first thing that is noticeable about Mr. Wilson is his commitment to his patients and his dedication to give them dignity and respect, and how that is something that is very reflected in every day. And I do believe it'll continue if he's granted release. So we truly, humbly, respectfully ask that you grant Mr. Wilson release today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Panel ready to vote?
Yes,
Mr. Roche?
Mr. Wilson, you have a tremendous network of support.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Family, the Innocence Project, the First 72. And you should be commended for the service you do, the healthcare at Louisiana State Penitentiary. That is one of the most rewarding jobs in the world, but it's also the most frustrating. It wears an individual down, taking care of persons that can't take care of themselves. And you should be commended.
Thank you, sir.
The programs that you've taken are good programs, are significant programs. And I don't know how you manage to take so many programs with the busy schedule you had in healthcare. The facts are the facts, Mr. Wilson. And I cannot overlook the facts of your extensive criminal history, a 30-year history, and especially your supervision history. The last 2 or 3 times you were put on supervision, you didn't even show up for intake. You absconded immediately. And they didn't find you until you committed another crime. The law enforcement opposition, the opposition from the DA's office. And what really sealed the deal for me is your disciplinary issues in 2021. You had been rehabilitated. You had served 13, 14 years. You were 62 years old. And you got a disciplinary write-up, went to disciplinary court, and was found guilty. Based on all the facts that I have before me, I deny your request.
Thank you, Mr. Roche. Mr. Freeman?
I agree with Mr. Roche. You're doing a wonderful job at the prison. You're giving back to the community. And you've taken some great programs, but there's no way to overlook the 8th felony offender who does not even show up at the probation office. So you didn't even show up, you didn't give the respect of at least coming to know that you realize there is authority besides yourself. So my vote is also.
Mr. Wilson, you received 2 votes to deny your parole. Your parole has been denied today. Good luck to you. You're working hard. Keep up the good work, and perhaps next time the vote might be a little different.
We're done?
I want to thank both wardens today for all of their assistance. We'll close out, be adjourned at 2:33.
Thank you.
There is a lot to unpack here, so buckle up. Yesterday we did a case which was similar in the sense that they had both gotten a life sentence without the possibility of parole. When he got his in 2008, the one we showed yesterday, he got it in 2009. Both for minor offenses. Actually, yesterday's case, he broke into a woman's car and stole an empty lunch bag. And that ended up getting him a life sentence without parole. In this case, this man was found falling asleep in the back of a car, and he had stolen a bottle of cologne. And they gave him a life sentence without parole. They both had the Innocence Project supporting them. They both had the Parole Project supporting them. Yet, results were a bit different. And certain things that are clearly different is having a fight in 2021 at that age. It is scary. The reason why it's scary is because if you're going to have just most simply, if you're going to have a fight in a public area, the hobby shop, it doesn't make you feel good that he won't get into a fight when he's outside free, get revoked, and end up back in prison. And it's a bad look on the parole board. Because this is Act 122. It's a special act that was created to give lifers like him a second chance. But this isn't what I'm about to share with you is the idea that he is the believed suspect, whether true or not, of a string of, I think, you might call it serial murder. And that's why, to have a retired district attorney oppose, I was like, whoa, this guy's, you have to be pretty intense to be retired and still write a letter of opposition. And I was thinking right off the bat, this guy, he's vindictive. He can't admit that he's wrong. And that's what they did. When they initially arrested him, they just locked him up for his crime, gave him a few years, and then retroactively, without even him having his day in court, they slapped the habitual offender on him. They said, so, he got locked up for whatever years they gave him. We can go over that court transcript, but on the magnitude of what I'm about to show you, it's pretty small. And then they gave him the life sentence. So like this DA orchestrated it. And then when it comes back now that he has a chance at freedom, he must have felt. So anyways, let me jump into what I want to show you. You may have even seen information on this case if you're one of those people that watch every single one of these cases on the case with Paula Zahn. And she's legendary in her own right, Paula Zahn, right? So she had an episode about the cold case, Kathy G. Wharton, who Glenn Wilson, who we just watched, Anthony Glenn Wilson, DNA matched to her demise. It was a cold case. And the murder suspect is to spend his life in jail, although he was never indicted of it. They got him in jail through this habitual offense. Now, I clicked on these links, and unfortunately, it says no result found. I can't. Granted, I didn't spend a long time looking for this episode. Internet sleuths out there, please, if you find it, send it to me. I'll put it in the description. Maybe I'll pin it. But it wasn't just there was also a book, Sweet Sense of Justice. And when I click that link, the link is also dead. But the thing is, these links are like all linking to the same type of URL. So there's other ways I'm sure I could find it on Amazon or Audible. But this is a big case. And here's another link I'll share with you. And I'll put these in the description. One of the year's greatest mysteries has finally been solved. It's official. They talk about the DNA. Okay, so law enforcement is not always first to recognize DNA, blah, blah, blah. They talk about the Innocence Project, how it exonerated people. And then meanwhile, they say that the police departments have not been sitting idly by. Cold case squads have popped up around the country. And now the Ouachita Parish, Louisiana Sheriff's Department carried out a very recent successful cold case DNA investigation, arresting 48-year-old Anthony Wilson, who did this, I'm not saying it out loud, of 19-year-old Kathy Wharton. According to Major Tony, there had been a series of 3 similar incidents that occurred within an 18-month period from 1980 to 1981 in and around the area of what is now University of Louisiana. The victims were all young white females and were driving alone in their cars when they were bumped from behind in another car. Two of the victims got out of the cars, apparently thinking they had been involved in an automobile accident, only to be kidnapped, that, and that to them, and then dumped within Monroe city limits. The third victim did not get out of her car, but instead tried to drive away, only to be found in the head near her car. She was apparently trying to flee on foot. Kathy Wharton, the victim, was found dumped in Wichita Parish. Tony, a male public hair and semen were recovered from the victims. And but at the time, scientific method could not examine it. Shortly after Wharton's murder, the infamous serial killer Henry Lee Lucas and Otis Elwood confessed to hundreds of similar murders across the United States. The only problem was then a narcotics detective was that the fact that both Lucas and Toole were white. When he learned that the detective handling the Wharton case were entertaining the idea Lucas, Toole were the perps, Tony reminded them that they should be looking for a black male. The detective basically told Major Tony to stick with narcotics investigations. So, you know, the classic detectives trying to just, we've seen that a million times, right? In true crime, detectives just wanting to close as many cases, pat themselves on the back. It is such a travesty that a smart detective would knowingly do that. To think about that, they arrest a serial killer who then wants to become, gain notoriety. So just unpacks a whole list, and then a detective would knowingly do that. It's hard to wrap one's mind around how that is justified to him. Her request fell on deaf ears when she was connected to Major Tony, who was charged. The Wharton case was reopened. There had been 5 or 6 original suspects at the time. An anonymous caller who originally reported finding the body over 20 years later, investigators identified and located the anonymous caller as well as other suspects. DNA was obtained from all of them and compared with the now valuable crime scene evidence. No hits, no more suspects. But there was one last hope. The FBI combined DNA index system CODIS. The DNA evidence of the Wharton case was submitted to CODIS, and a positive match was made to career criminal Anthony Wilson. There was one more interesting twist to this case. On March 31st, 2007, U.S. Marshal Bill Parker arrested Wilson for this. As it turns out, in 1981, Marshal Parker was a rookie deputy. At the Wichita Parish Sheriff's Department. And one of the deputies who originally located a body. Oh, that is an interesting twist. So 26 years later, he arrests her and put the cuffs on him. Arrests him and put the cuffs on him. A sad yet amazing story, but he will continue to be repeated elsewhere. Now, they ended up not charging him. And I guess they couldn't indict him on it. They couldn't get him to confess it. But what they did is they just waited till he messed up, and then they gave him the life sentence. Which is just, the question now that I think we want to ask is, do you think he did it? I haven't seen the stuff. I haven't read the book. I really only once it showed up in the hearing did I start Googling it. So I only have 40 minutes of Googling. And at the beginning, it wasn't easy to find it. I had to, kind of mess around with the different words that I used before it came up. This is just the burglary case. So it was the morning of September 9, 2004. The owner of the Ford Explorer discovered the defendant sleeping in his vehicle and the rear passenger window was broken. The owner called the police. 2 deputies responded. They asked him to get out of the vehicle and found that in the vehicle was a black bag, which it did not belong to him, containing bolt cutters, a black ski mask. According to the vehicle owner, the glove box had been opened and gone through. A bottle of cologne and some change were missing from the vehicle. The cologne was found either on the defendant or in his bag, while the missing coins were found in the bag. The defendant was arrested and charged with simple burglary. Following a trial in 2007, he was convicted. He was sentenced to 12 years at hard labor, but they were like, we're going to get him with the habitual. They knew all along what they were going to do. They were watching and waiting for him to mess up. They charged him as multiple offender. After a hearing, he was adjudicated a 4th felony offender and sentenced to life in prison. But I know Mr. O'Shea said 7 felonies, so I don't know. Maybe they didn't feel it was important to bring up the other 3. Yeah, internet sleuths, you tell me. Did we just watch a hearing of a true serial killer where you have a book, Sweet Scent of Justice, on the case with Paul Zahn called A Long Story to Justice, where they claim in The Long Story to Justice that they caught him. And I don't know, man. His excuse for his DNA being there, which Mr. O'Shea seemed to take at face value, was, well, he was selling stuff. He was a dealer, and he sold the guy who did this. And there might be a lot of arguments as to how that is plausible. There might be, the idea that someone could do these type of crimes and then just stop. There's a lot of mitigating circumstances, I think. You look at him and you don't, from what you've heard of all these petty crimes and things, it just doesn't really seem like someone who would fit that profile, but I'm no profile illustrator, right? But the saga continues. He wasn't let free. And I would love to learn more about this case. If we could find any more information, I'll put it in the comment section and pin it. If anyone knows anything about this, please email me. It's watchparolehearings@gmail.com. But this one was definitely a surprise. And now, if you think that he didn't do that he wasn't responsible for those brutal crimes, would you argue that, hey, he should get paroled? And unlike the last case, this is totally different than the last case. I just can't draw the lines between the two. You can argue they gave him the habitual offender tag with a reason that they believe that he was their guy. Now, what's interesting is that the Innocence Project is backing him, and I don't really have any reason not to believe in the Innocence Project, right? I'm just a fan of them. I don't know, anything more than that. I think it is fascinating. Another little bit of a thing I picked up. You see Daryl Miles on the bottom right here. How he was kind of kicked out as being a speaker, and I don't know if it was just a coincidence because they only had 3 speakers. I've been hard on him in the past because I feel that he comes up and speaks often, and I feel that his strategy is not in the best interests of his clients, so to speak. I feel that his strategy often, because he was a prisoner once himself, and he's been in the trenches fighting for rights of freedom, and you got to give him all the respect for that. But I feel like he kind of comes off as talking down to the board, and I don't think the board appreciates it. And that's just my perception. I could be wrong. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that was a planned out kind of thing or if it just was because. But it's certainly fascinating to me, and I would love to get help on understanding if he really was guilty or if it's just another classic scenario of someone trying to close a cold case. And with that, I'll let you go.